We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome to the NBA Lockdown podcast. Today is Wednesday, May 13th. My name is Amin Elhassan. I am joined by the one and only Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing? I'm in a better place than you are. I'm walking through LA Live, and you're out there in Bristol, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm on my way to Bristol, actually, so I've got enough issues on my hands as it is. But I do want to talk about the Cavs and the Bulls last night. Seems like we got ourselves a series. We got guys getting upset out there. We got Taj Gibson drop kicking people. What in the world, Ramona?
Okay, how is that an ejection on Taj Gibson? That's like sort of like, let go of my foot, Matthew. And he steps on him a little bit, and he gets kicked out. I don't understand how that's an ejection. That's like, let go of my foot. That's not a kick. That's not a stomp. That was like a nothing play. And it changed the whole complexion of that game.
You want to hear something funny? Someone brought this up the other day.
Sure.
I think it was last year. Serge Ibaka, same thing happened to Ibaka with Blake Griffin last year, where Blake pinned his leg between his two legs, and Ibaka basically tried to shake his leg free, and he got teed up for his troubles, and Blake gets nothing. Again, what's the point of having instant replay if you can't see something that's clear as day that all of us, the rest of America, saw?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one thing if you want to give him a T, okay, but to eject him for that, I thought it was like, I mean, it really changed the whole complexion of that game because they were already outmanned. They didn't have Pau Gasol. Joakim Noah doesn't look like Joakim Noah right now. I feel like this series is such a great series, and I wish everyone was healthy for it because I'd love to see these two teams match up against each other when they really were these two teams. But, for what it is right now, it's basically last man standing. LeBron's on one ankle, Kyrie's on one foot, Derrick Rose looks like he gets hurt every single game, 2 or 3 times in a game. Joakim, I don't know if he's hurt or just not himself, but whatever this is, it's becoming I think the winner of this series goes on and wins in the next round. But I actually think it's more likely this is going to end up going 7 because if you watch the Bulls, this is definitely the kind of team that doesn't go out on its home court.
Yeah, it's funny. The East has been dealing with injuries all playoffs long. All 4 teams in the East are banged up. But I thought last night's game was semi-entertaining. But I know someone who does know whether it was entertaining or not, and you spoke to him, Tony Cartagena from ESPN Cleveland.
All right, thanks, Amin. We're here now with Tony Cartagena from ESPN Cleveland and talking about what has turned into a knockdown, drag-out heavyweight fight, but really – at the end of this, I think it's just last man standing. I don't know if it's the better team's going to win. It's just whoever has the most bodies left on the court, right?
Yeah, it was funny. I tweeted out last night during the game. The games have just been so good, and I was just like, this thing should go 11-13, the best of 15. Let's keep it going. And all these Cavs fans responded and were just like, we won't have anybody left if this game goes more than 7, if the series goes more than 7 games. Because, yeah, it is a very physical series. These teams are beating each other up literally. I mean, you saw with the incident with Taj Gibson and Matthew Dellavedova. But it's exciting basketball. It's one of the better series that we've seen so far, and it is very physical. LeBron, Kyrie, all those guys getting pretty beat up.
Can I say something about that ejection with Taj Gibson and Matthew Dellavedova last night? I mean, I watched that 2-3 times, and I was talking to a couple of assistant coaches in the league afterwards about that. How did Taj Gibson get ejected and Dellavedova got nothing? I mean, he put his leg in a leg lock, and then Taj kind of stomped on him afterwards, but I didn't even think that was a real kick. That was kind of like a let go of my leg. I thought that was way of an overreaction.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looked like he had him in an ankle lock, and Gibson tried to kick out of it, and yeah, if whatever happened with the referees and the review, I just think when they look at it, you have to kind of consider that the plays before that, Gibson and Dellavedova really were getting into it, and I think Dellavedova is, if not at more fault, at least equal fault for that altercation taking place.
Yeah, what kind of guy is Dellavedova? I don't know him that much. I just know his name. He's Delly, right? That's what everybody calls him, and he's the scrappy guy who sort of has found himself in somewhat of a starring role in this series with the injuries to Kyrie. What's he like?
Well, LeBron called him the toughest guy on the team, and I think just by talking to him, he's such an enjoyable guy to be around. Where he gets along with everybody. He'll talk to whoever, and people love his accent. Like he's one of the fan favorites just because he's such a nice guy. He does a lot of work with kids around him. I've had only anything but great interactions with Dellavedova. He even showed me once a recipe that he has for a workout shake that he swears by, that he makes himself and goes to the market on Saturday mornings to put it together. So yeah, I really think Delly's a great guy. And he's just he's trying to fill a role with a hurt Kyrie Irving that's just really hard to fill.
Tony Cartagena from ESPN Cleveland is our guest here on the NBA Lockdown podcast. Tony, I'm watching this series, looking at Kyrie getting up and down the court, and I don't know how the guy's walking, let alone playing basketball right now. How bad is that foot of his?
Games 3 and 4 in Chicago, it looked bad. It looked like he shouldn't be on the court, and by his own account, he said, I'm 30 or 40%. Last night looked a little bit different. He came out of the gates, I thought, a little bit shaky. But then he said afterwards how he was just able to, adrenaline kicked in, and he was able to loosen up a little bit, and things started working the right way for him. And it showed. And there were a few times where he got in the open court and was able to make Kyrie Irving type plays that we're all accustomed to him doing. And he said after, too, he was just like, I can't jump anymore. Like, he just can't jump. He doesn't have the lift. He doesn't have the knee. He doesn't have the foot. But he's so good with angles and knowing where he needs to hit on the backboard and where he can release the ball that he just kept referencing the Mikan drill that he used to do when he was younger, saying that really saved him. But I would put him at, right now, just looking at him physically, 60, maybe 65%.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave McMenamin had a great column up on ESPN.com today talking about how, Kyrie writes whiplash on his shoes every day, from the movie. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not, but when you watch it, it's really just about, a young drummer who's at a school. It's like the equivalent of a Juilliard. And the teacher there just works him so hard and pushes him so hard. I mean, he's drumming until his hands are bleeding, right? I'm watching Kyrie right now, and him putting that on his shoes kind of speaks to his state of mind and what he's trying to play through right now. Just watching him and watching the way that he's tried to suck it up and get through this with Kevin Love out, with all the other injuries and issues that Cleveland has had. I think this is real. If he comes through this series, if they end up winning this series, I think he gets a lot more credit than anybody would have ever thought Kyrie could do in this first run with LeBron.
Oh, 100% agree. I noticed that on his shoe. I want to say Game 2 of the Boston series. And because his shoes are always just laying around the locker room, and you can know he was wearing a white pair, and you notice it written on the back. And I think it's a perfect, if it's a movie reference, it's 100% correct. Because he said last night that this is the toughest mental challenge he's ever faced in his career, but he's able to overcome because he wants it so badly. He just said he wants to be out there. He feels the need that he has to be out there. And if he sits, he doesn't know if he can look himself in the mirror. So I think that's a huge statement coming from a guy who, he is, 9 games into his NBA playoff career, and for the most part, besides the injury, he's played pretty phenomenally.
Yeah, when we look back on this series, it looks like Cleveland took control of that with that win in Game 5. But I think we're always going to remember Game 4 and the way that finished. I mean, it feels like if you're the Bulls and you end up losing this series, that's the game that got away. That's the game you're going to be thinking about for months and years to come. I still can't process everything that happened at the end of it. With David Blatt drawing up the wrong play and almost calling timeout. I mean, is that the game? Is that the kind of game that's going to live in playoff lore for a while?
I think it has to. And for Cleveland fans, I know it does because they're still hurt from 1989 in the shot. The Cleveland fans still reference that thing with Jordan. And when you look at everything that could have possibly went wrong, from the offensive foul to the near timeout to the poorly drawn-up play, LeBron James, who came home for one reason, and that's to get that city a championship, took things into his own hands and said, let me finish this. And he knocked down the shot. And then as you look at the cover of the newspapers here in Cleveland this morning, it is a picture of LeBron James with a block on Derrick Rose because they let the Bulls back into it last night too, and LeBron makes the block in the open court to kind of give them a little bit of breathing room. But absolutely, the Bulls had a shot to go up 3-1 on a LeBron James-led team. They haven't been able to get past him, and it was right there for the taking. They weren't able to do it. I thought right at that point, when LeBron hits that shot, there's no stopping him after that.
You know, the Bulls have really missed Pau Gasol in this series, and the reason they miss him, one, Pau Gasol is really good, but two, Joakim Noah just hasn't looked like himself. I was with the Bulls for a little while a couple weeks ago in the first round of the playoffs, and I wasn't sure if he was just not quite in rhythm or if he was still dealing with an injury, if he still wasn't quite healthy. You're up close to him. What are you seeing out there? Is it a confidence issue? Is it a rhythm? Is it an injury? I can't put my finger on it right now.
So he's one of the guys in the league where I would never really worry about confidence with him, just because he's Joakim Noah and he always seems to be thinking very highly of himself. Watching him this series, I thought there were plays where he looks like he's still battling injuries. There was, in game one, he goes scoreless, and he missed a wide-open layup. And for a 7-footer to miss a wide-open layup, it was coming off of a pick and roll. The way he jumped just looked awkward, like he was uncomfortable with his motions. I think there's a little bit to do with that, and a lot to do with he has talked a lot of trash about Cleveland in years past.
Yeah.
And every time the building last night was louder every time Noah touched the ball or when Noah got that technical foul than it is when LeBron hits a three. I mean, Cleveland fans are in his head more than I think he is comfortable with, to be honest, because the abuse that he takes verbally from the fans and every time he is involved in a play, it's second to none. I haven't heard a team scream so much at an opposing player ever.
Wow, ever. I mean, that's saying something considering the people who have been in that building in the playoffs before.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it is unbelievable the way that people don't forget that he said in 2010, there's nothing to do in Cleveland. Why would I ever want to go to Cleveland? And, you know, the mocking claps that he does when fans are cheering against him. I just think they really just dislike the guy.
Yeah, I think this series, after what happened last night with Dellavedova and Taj Gibson, then the comments about, Taj making about Cleveland fans being classless, right? They were throwing stuff at him in the tunnel, and then the Bulls fans, the Cavs saying that he may have a dirty play. I mean, I think this series it's already been rough. It's already been chippy. The last game or two of this series is going to be just wild if it gets to a seventh game on Sunday.
Oh, it's going to be an absolute fight. And I think for whatever team that's advancing and whatever team thinks they have the upper hand to advance there, you got to play smart because the Cavs saw what happens when you're going against a team that's about to be eliminated in the Boston Celtics and you do something stupid like throw an elbow to the face of Jay Crowder. You get suspended for 2 games, and that can hurt your team. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see just from every box out between Noah and Tristan Thompson, how many extra elbows and extra pushes are thrown in there to hard fouls when Kyrie is driving or when Jimmy's guarding LeBron. The retaliation, the interaction, I think Mayweather-Pacquiao, people keep talking about, how unentertaining that was. These next 1, maybe 2 games are going to have a lot more action than that fight did. I can tell you that much.
Well, for all our sakes, I got to watch one of the best first-round series ever with Clippers and Spurs. This has probably been one of the best second-round series I've seen in a long time. I hope it goes 7. But if it does, pack your shoulder pads. That last game is going to be a crazy one. Hey, Tony Cartagena, ESPN Cleveland. Thanks for joining us on the NBA Lockdown podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, that was Tony Cartagena. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Ramona. But let's shift gears to the Western Conference. Last night, the Rockets had to win to stay alive, and stay alive they did. Ramona, are you surprised at all?
Yes.
That the Rockets,
what the heck is going on?
Roll over and die.
I mean, the 2 games that I saw, where they lose by 25-plus points and they didn't really have much fight in them, I didn't see that. I just thought they were going to go. This was over. I mean, it looked like the Clippers were dominating this series. They had been playing the whole postseason with a sense of urgency. Doc Rivers is complaining about how they've been playing every other day. They need a break in between series. They need some time off. It was like this was your chance to show you're playing at a championship level. You can close out at an inferior opponent. on the road. Get yourself some rest. Instead, we all got to come back and do this Thursday in L.A. I mean, and if you're the Clippers, after what you saw happen, what you did to the Spurs in the last round, I just don't know why you mess with this. I mean, you got to try to close out on Thursday at home because you don't want to be going back to Houston for Game 7 on the road on Sunday and setting yourself up for another 7-game series with, knockdown, drag out, where you've already got a bunch of injuries that you're dealing with.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the two things, one, that the Clippers aren't an especially deep team to begin with, and two, when you talk about Chris Paul dealing with that hamstring, Matt Barnes, who got banged up last night, and he's been playing banged up, if I'm not mistaken, all playoff long. So, and it's such a huge difference between you're up 3-1 and you're on the other end of the bracket and they're tied 2-2, and you say, wow, we could wrap this up and maybe they'll duke it out and we'll have all this time. And then all of a sudden, it's 3-2. The Warriors win the night. That's 3-2. You may not have any rest at all. You may be going in with the same amount of rest. So I agree with you. It was a golden opportunity that they blew. They didn't look like they had the same sense of urgency that they had in previous games. I think we all expected the Rockets to just lay down and if I had emojis, I'd have a little rocket and maybe a little pistol next to it, and I'd say, it'll all be over very quickly.
#Paint hard.
I mean, it was, the way the Rockets had played the last few games, I just didn't see much fight in them, right? Like, when the Rockets get down, they're not like Chicago will get down and they'll come back. They'll make a run and they'll make it close. The Rockets get down and it just gets worse. and so, I just thought, I know teams don't like to get closed out at home. You thought they'd have a little push there from the home crowd. You don't want to lose on your home court, but what happened in that game actually was, DeAndre Jordan picks up 2 quick fouls. And then all of a sudden that allows Dwight Howard to get going. The Clippers, though, they just didn't bring it defensively. I mean, there's so many plays there where they're slow on their rotations. They're not closing out. They allowed Dwight to get involved. I think the Rockets had something like 63 points in the paint. That shows you. I don't care if DeAndre Jordan is in there or not in there. That tells you you're just not playing with the sense of urgency. I mean, Blake Griffin said after the game, we played like we had a couple bullets left in the chamber, knowing okay, we got 2 more games to close this out. But, for a team like the Clippers, who they're thin, right? They don't have a lot of depth. Chris Paul's still dealing with that hammy. Matt Barnes has been banged up all postseason long. They've actually kind of caught a break because whenever Houston goes to the Hack-a-Shack on DeAndre, it allows Chris Paul to rest. It allows, they don't have to go as deep into their bench as they normally would. It allows their defense to get set. It's kind of helped them, deal with their lack of depth. And now you're just playing another game. It's another exposure for injuries. It's another game where things can go wrong. I thought the Clips looked like they really grew up in that San Antonio series, and especially the way they were playing after that, and then that was a real letdown in Game 5. But, if you look back on the history of this franchise, the last 4 years, they've won 3 playoff series. All of them have gone 7 games. They're 3-0 in those 7 games in that 7th game. But this is their history. They're not great at closing teams out when they have them on the ropes.
Right, absolutely. Now, one of the interesting things was that Houston did not, for most of the game, go hack-a-shack on DeAndre until the very end, and then, made Reggie Miller just say, let's get rid of free throws altogether. I mean, and by the way, I think that's the point right there. I think Reggie Miller felt what all of us are feeling. I know as a shooter, he's got a pride. It's, guys should be able to make free throws. They're easy. But he finally saw it from the lens of, as a spectator, that this is just bad basketball. And we got good basketball for most of the game. But I want to take a different angle, Ramona. I want to see if you agree with me on this.
Okay.
I think one of the unintended consequences of going hack-a-shack is you are sending a message to your own team that we can't guard them. We're not good enough to defend them as is. And so in those other games where they came out early and often with the hack-a-shack, the feeling was when they didn't do it, like, oh, man, we're in for it now. And it kind of gave the Clippers some confidence, too. I thought last night, them playing the Clippers straight up, you're going to have to beat us playing basketball. It gave the Rockets a little bit of confidence, and it took away some of the confidence from the Clippers.
I 100% agree with you on that one, and I also think, because what happens is when the other guys finally get to play, right, when you don't hack a shack on DeAndre, when you don't foul him early, then all of a sudden Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and those guys, okay, we get to play one, right? I mean, they get into it more, right? And I think, the Rockets really are outmanned in this series. They really miss Patrick Beverly here because he would be hounding Chris Paul and Austin Rivers like crazy if he was out there. They really miss Monty Williams because he could stretch the floor, and it changes the whole spacing when they're out there. But the one thing that's really surprised me in this, and it's a direct result of going to the hack-a-shack so early in possessions, is they're letting the Clippers get out and run. They're not. It's either a hack-a-shack or the Clippers are out in transition, right? When they don't foul him early, they get out and run. Now, what's the best way for Austin Rivers to play, right? He's not a great floor general in the half court yet, but he can run. And it's weird the way they'd been playing the last couple of games. I think when they went away from that and they just played him straight up, we had a real basketball game. They got back to what they do, and it threw the Clippers off a little bit. Now, I will say this, when DeAndre Jordan's out there, it just changes the whole complexion of the game defensively, right? Like, part of the reason I think they're going to the hack-a-shack and just in talking to the Rockets and their coaching staff is they just want to get DeAndre out of the game because they can't really score on the Clippers when he's there. James Harden drives into the paint. You can't score around DeAndre Jordan. He's such a great rim protector. Whatever you got to do to get him out of the game, whether it be through foul trouble or in hacking him, putting him on the line and forcing Doc Rivers to make that decision game in and game out, that's what they're trying to do. It's ugly, though. I got to tell you, I was at the game the other night, and, I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to watch, but there's so many dead balls. There's so many walking up the court. Let's shoot a free throw. I mean, I started getting on Twitter. I started reading other stories. I was like, man, this isn't even – I can't even watch this, right? I mean, I'm starting to, I'm sitting with a couple of scouts, and these guys are trying to track this game, and we're all like, man, this is horrible basketball. Like, it's just,
Ramona,
you can't get into it at all.
Ramona, think of this. You have to, be there and pay attention to the game. Think of the millions and millions of Americans who won't change the channel, who won't watch something else. That's not good for our league. That's just not good for our league. It's not a good advertisement of what NBA basketball is about. And to be honest with you, if it comes down to getting DeAndre Jordan out of the game, I think Doc Rivers has shown if it's that kind of measuring contest, he's not going to blink. Mm-hmm. He's going to leave DeAndre in if it takes 40 or 100 free throw attempts. But you get him in foul trouble, that'll make a move. And to me, that's what you do. You play basketball, you get DeAndre in foul trouble, and then the reward for that is you get to play with Spencer Hawes on the floor. And even though he's a great offensive talent, as far as being able to shoot the ball, he's terrible defensively. And so you kind of reap a double benefit as the Houston Rockets. But Ramona, the question on everybody's mind right now, you're going to be in the building tomorrow night, Game 6 at Staples. Will there be a Game 7, or do the Clippers wrap it? Oh, you're going 7, huh?
Oh, God, it better not go 7. Come on now. First, let's just close this out and stop wasting everybody's time. I think I'm kind of upset there's even a 6th game because so far in this series, I feel like the Rockets haven't really won games. It's more like the Clippers haven't really finished them off. And I'm talking about Game 2 when they were up 13. That game last night, which was just, if the Rockets would show me something, right? Like if the Rockets look like a team that could advance, that could beat the Warriors or the Grizzlies the next round, then we got a series, right? Like I don't mind, but they haven't looked like the Rockets. I mean, last night I felt like they were. James Harden had a nice triple-double, playing sick. Dwight Howard got going, but I felt like that was more about the Clippers not doing what they needed to do rather than the Rockets playing so great. Now the problem is when you let a team breathe. When you let a team feel itself again, then we can have a series. When you give anybody a little bit of latitude, this is NBA basketball, and this is a team that has surprised people all year long. I know the Rockets fans hate me because I always pick against them whenever they make us pick those things, right? Daryl Morey was tweeting out to us how nobody believes in them. Look, they are the number 2 seed for a reason. They won 56 games. They're good. They're a good team. I just think with the injuries they have, it's not the same team that they really constructed. I just can't see them advancing or making noise if they were able to come all the way back from this 3-1 deficit here.
Can't do it.
How about you? You think we're going 7, or you think we polish it up in 6?
You know what's funny? People always say, "Oh, the media is biased. The media doesn't want this thing to." You know what's funny to me? I always find like the media, all we care about is travel. Can I book my next flight? And
well, no, I care about a good story too, right? Yeah, like nobody wants to get back on a plane to Houston. But it's also like I want the best story, right? I gotta watch the games too. I want to write about them. I want to write about good stuff.
Ramona, Game 7 is a great story, but I have a feeling a lot of people don't want to fly back. It's like, look, we're here.
Right.
Let's just wait in California. Hopefully the Warriors can wrap it up and we can just go back and forth from Oakland to L.A.
Southwest.
That's what a lot of people think, and it's not. Yeah. You know, and again, it's like, it's not because, the media loves Doc or the media loves Steve Kerr.
No.
None of that. It's all about, can we do this conveniently? Can I just have some convenience in my life here?
It's easier to fly from L.A. to Oakland than it is to fly from Oakland or Memphis to Houston, right? I mean, you're right about that, 100%. You know, I mean, but it's also like, look, I'm looking at it going, Warriors, Clippers hate each other, right? That's going to be I'm sticking a microphone in front of Draymond Green every single day. I mean, we root for that kind of stuff, right? Because I don't care who wins. I just want to have a good thing to cover. I want to have a good series to cover. I can't take much more of this Clippers-Rockets series. I mean, it's just been bad basketball, and I think maybe we all got spoiled in the first round with the Clippers and Spurs. And that was just such great basketball, such compelling games. Maybe y'all got spoiled, so now this one looks just worse to us. If we can have a good game, then fine. But this kind of stuff where they're all fouling each other all game long, and it's bad shooting, bad defense. Ugh, I don't know. How about you?
Well, Ramona, full disclosure.
Okay.
Last night, yesterday afternoon, I wanted there to be a Game 6 because I was on my way to L.A. I was going to see you tomorrow. I was going to say, Game 6 is on Thursday. Then that way I'll just roll it into my trip. I'll be able to, we'll be able to get this thing knocked out at the studio and then walk over and watch this game. And then, of course, as like Murphy's Law, I get a call last night.
Yep.
They say, Amin, we need you to go to Bristol. And so now, here I was rooting for a Game 6, and now I'm not even going to be there to see it. I'm going to be. I'm going to actually be in Bristol. It is my fault.
I'd be home watching Grey's Anatomy. I was going to watch Scandal. I was going to watch Grey's Anatomy on Thursday.
That Thursday night lineup.
Night off,
Believe
finally.
me. Oh. Believe me, there are a lot of people complaining that they're missing the Thursday night lineup because of me. So, sadly, I will not be there to watch it. And as a result, I'm so upset. I just want that series to be over and done with. Just go ahead, Clippers, close them out in Game 6. If I'm being serious, I think I picked the Clippers in 6 before the series started. This is right on plan. I think they've been clearly the better team throughout this series, other than last night. And I think, as you said, the Rockets felt a little twinge of pride last night. You don't want to get closed out on your home floor. You don't want the home fans to boo you on the last game of the year. This way, they go out with a little bit of mercy, away from the judgmental eyes of the home crowd. They can go out there in L.A., have a nice little trip, get knocked out, and then go about their way.
Hey, now I'll be real about this too, though. If they can get it together, if we have some good games here, by all means, go 7. But if it's more of this, come on. I've always been on the side of like learn how to make your free throws and learn how to do this. But after watching this series, I don't know, I'm turning around on it. Like if I was home and I didn't have to be there, I would have been watching Mad Men or Game of Thrones. Like that was an ugly game on Sunday.
Exactly.
It was ugly on Tuesday. It's not good basketball, and I hate that that's what this turns into. It's kind of been extreme fouling. Like I thought at the end of the game on Tuesday night, Doc Rivers started fouling Capella almost to make a point. Well, if you're going to do it, then we're going to do it too. It wasn't even strategic. It was almost just like, he was just sick of them doing it to them, and they were fighting back a little bit. But I can't. Let's root for good games, right? I think if we can get some good games here, that's fine. But any more of this, that's enough.
I think that's something that we can all agree on. We want good basketball. Ramona Shelburne, thank you so much. When we come back, I will be tackling the Monty Williams firing. Was it just, or was there a little bit of bush leagueness there? In 60 seconds.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories.
Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the NBA Lockdown Podcast. My name is Amin Elhassan. We are going to shift gears now, and I'm going to put on my judgmental hat. That's right. I always like when I get indignant about things. Angry, upset, outraged, if you will. Today, I'm outraged about the way Monty Williams was let go. No, I wasn't a Monty Williams fan. I was not writing long missives, praising his coaching excellence. There were a lot of holes in his execution. I thought there were a lot of holes in their defense. A team that had Anthony Davis and Omer Asik should not be in the bottom third of the NBA defensively. But I will say this. That man was given an ultimatum. He met the ultimatum. And the organization turned around and said, doesn't matter. That's Bush League. It's cowardly. Look, it's happened several times over recent months, the last couple of years or so. We saw it happen to Larry Drew in Milwaukee. We saw it happen to Mike Malone in Sacramento. Most recently, we saw it happen to Scott Brooks in Oklahoma City. Guys who were, I would say, taken advantage of, and the way they were fired was less than becoming, less than frank, less than straightforward. And people like to dandy about this term. It's a business. As if to say, oh, we can treat people like they're not humans. We can treat people, backstab them, swindle them, do all types of shiesty things, dishonest things, duplicitous things, double-faced things, all in the name of it's a business. What kind of business is that? What kind of moral compass are those businesses running? And so Monty Williams, specifically, like I said, they were given an ultimatum, make the playoffs or lose your job. And I know there were circumstances that led to them having a fighting chance to be in the playoffs, namely the injuries that happened in Oklahoma City. But guess what? New Orleans had a bunch of injuries as well. They weren't healthy all year long. They were missing their all-star point guard. Anthony Davis missed time. Ryan Anderson missed time. They had injuries. They overcame the odds, even in the final weeks of the season, when all of us, present company included, myself included, we all picked against them to make the playoffs, and they got it done anyway. He met your ultimatum. Oh, and by the way, your owner sends out the thank you note 2 weeks ago, thanking him for a great season. And then what do? You let him go. And they're so lucky because Monty's such a stand-up guy, such a classy guy. He comes out, gets interviewed, and takes the highest of high roads. Monty, I wish I had an ounce of the class, of the poise, of the gentlemanness, if that is a word. I wish I had an ounce of that. I don't. I'm a self-proclaimed scoundrel. That's right, open letter music. I wear my feelings on my sleeve. I'll let you know exactly how I stand. On this one, Monty, you take the high road. Let me take the low road. Del Demps, do you think that was a roster constructed that should have competed for a playoff spot? You who paid $2 million to John Salmons about 7 years after we all knew he couldn't play anymore? You who surrounded Anthony Davis with a bunch of players whose first inclination is to shoot, shoot, shoot? What kind of support did you give Monty? Again, I'm not saying Monty did the best with what he had. He could have done better. But you ain't give him that much. And the way I see it, if Monty's going down with the ship, because the team underachieved, quote unquote, despite giving the Warriors 4 very tough games, the toughest sweep you can get. We're going to lay that all on Monty's plate. I figure some leftovers can fall on Del Demp's plate as well. You set the table. You pick the ingredients. You suggested the recipe. Can't be mad at the chef for everything now. This has been NBA Lockdown Podcast of today, Wednesday, May 13th. A very special thank you to Ramona Shelburne. Very special thank you to special guest, Tony Cartagena. We'll be back tomorrow to recap the pair of Game 5s that will be going on tonight. Warriors taking on the Grizzlies. Hawks taking on the Wizards. Watch those games, everybody. Come back informed tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.